Alright, let's check the comments on my newest video just for fun.
Oh my god!
Hello everyone, I'm back with 10 more terrible creepypastas from the deep, dank and dirty vault. Today we're focusing on another Nintendo franchise, one which will soon enough be releasing a new game, the 4th game in a much beloved series. That's right, we're talking Pikmin. No, we're not. Sorry, we're talking Metroid. A series about aliens, space pirates, and hot chicks. I've once again rounded up 10 stories that are certainly not up to snuff, and we're gonna make fun of them like we always do. Thanks for suggesting this, guys. And if you want to suggest a topic for a future video, then please check my Patreon page in the description for more details. If any of the authors of these stories come across these videos, remember to not take them personally. I'm only criticizing the stories and not you as people. Keep writing, keep improving. Let's go for a ride in our gunship as we take a trip through the galaxy. These are the top 10 worst Metroid creepypastas. Number 10. Metroid Corrupted. There's something about punctuating the titles of stories that make them seem like the author is extremely pissed off. Or is that just me? Metroid Corrupted. Period. Rest in peace, headphone users. My first attempt at a creepypasta. Hope you enjoy! Aw man, with a charming introduction like that, it kinda makes me feel bad for making fun of stories like these. I'm sure you tried your best, alright? Metroid Corrupted. It was about halfway through summer break, and I was bored as hell. I beat all of my new games, read like 3 books, and there was nothing on TV. So I decided to dig up my Wii games and found Metroid Prime 3. I opened it up, remembering how much I loved the game, and found it was cracked, of course. Yes, of course, that's what happens to old games, they just crack after a period of time. So I went to GameStop to get a new one, and I found one too. It was used, so it was cheap. I paid the clerk $25, a few extra with the extended warranty, and headed off. Back home I booted up the Wii and put in the disc. I selected the second file since I beat the first one and started to play. The game started as normal, with Dark Samus being born from face-on seeds and Samus waking up in her gunship. I went through the tutorial and scanned everything in the first room, then went and shot the door to the next room. It took about 10 seconds for the door to open, and when it did, all there was static. I could still make out the shapes, but just barely. I pressed the home button to reset the game, but it was too glitched, so I manually turned off the power and started the Wii up again. It seems as though this game disc has been possessed by Slenderman. When I went back to the game, the title screen opened as normal again. I went to my new file and it said 0.0% opening cutscene. The creation of Dark Samus scene started again, but this time, as well as the blue lightning striking from her seed, there was also green lightning, but I thought nothing of it at the time. Oh, but don't you know, that's the killing curse! The game played normally mostly, except for a couple of things. Like the dialogue between the two people in the second room was, "I hear the pirates have developed a new weapon of torture. Wouldn't have to worry about that yet. Our sources tell us it's still being tested." Instead of the usual dialogue. Also, some of the Metroids had just an extra hint of green in them. I played until Samus and the others were about to activate the laser to destroy the meteor, and the cutscene with Dark Samus started perfectly, but instead of blasting face-on, she blasted a light green substance at them. Gross. The next paragraph is rather pointless, so I'm just gonna skip it. Instead of showing Samus turn into Dark Samus, the screen just went black. After about 5 seconds her eyes opened again. It was still first-person view, so I could see what she was seeing. She was staring at a pure white ceiling. I tried to tilt her head, but I couldn't. I heard 2 creatures talking in their native tongue to the left, but I couldn't even guess what they were saying. Then a space pirate comes to Samus and says in perfect English, "You will make a fine example." Yeah, so basically Samus is in some sort of examining room strapped to a table and hundreds of space pirates are there to observe her. She was also connected to many wires and tubes, most of which were also green. Then I went to the space pirate who was holding a red button. After a few seconds he pressed it and the camera went back to Samus. Whatever was in the green tube started to flow and Samus started twitching. The twitching progressively got worse until it was full out thrashing. The veins in her face went green and bulged. Finally, after almost 2 minutes of this, she shrieked and I heard a splat as the screen suddenly went black. Then fading in, slowly and glitchily, in bright green font, said the words, "Game over." I'm gonna be honest, that story wasn't actually that bad. With some more work, you could have probably turned it into something decent. No, the main reason why I chose this story was because I wanted to show off this one comment. That's scarier than this whole story. Number 9. Prime.exe. This is a Metroid creepypasta. I'm not sure if this is the first Metroid pasta on the wiki, but still enjoy. Thank you for clarifying that, author. The creepypasta. I've been anticipating the release of Metroid Prime trilogy since I completed Prime 3 Corruption with 100% items/scans, and I wanted to play Prime and Echoes. The day after it was released, I went to Christopher's Gamebox, a store for games of consoles that were released past 2002 to 2009. To my misfortune, .gb, my best friend left the store with the last copy of the game. Christopher found out what had happened and then received a phone call. The response on the end of the line only said, "We're coming," in a distorted, quiet whisper. About 5 minutes later, a man came in holding a box with a label on the side reading, "Game shipment. Date August 25th, 2009. Delivery location, Christ." I had no idea this story was religious. He put the box on the counter and Christopher opened it. The man left and I was astonished. CDs, stacked in an orderly fashion on one side and a bunch of flash drives in a case on the other side. That's right, the author was astonished that a box delivered to a video game store contained video games. The CDs had simple labels such as Sonic and Sorry, so the author's basically apologizing for Sonic. In the middle there were 5 copies of Metroid Prime trilogy. Christopher took the copies out of the box and I bought one. Before I left, he gave me the disc that had Prime as its label and a navy blue flash drive, assuming it was related. I got home, blah blah blah, let's skip some more stuff. Upon starting up my Wii, I had to do a system update, which oddly took 1 minute. I selected a new game for Echoes, but then stopped and wanted to try Prime. I selected Veteran, what I did to play Metroid Prime 3. It went off normally, then suddenly as Samus popped out, sounds like someone's giving birth, loud distorted static played continuously for 3 minutes, and the game was showing really frightening pictures. What I saw was the most disturbing 30 seconds of my entire gaming career ever.
What career?
Her visor was cracked and there was a smashed hole in the left side of the visor. Her helmet was burned and scratched, in the hole was a knife. I closed my eyes for a second and Samus was in Magmore Caverns in the Magmore workstation room. Let's skip ahead some more. I took the flash drive and inserted it into my PC. Quickly it repeated the same disturbing image reel. Then the PC loaded a game. Metroid Fusion. Let's skip some more, cause trust me, your time is more important than this story. Saris appeared. He looked menacing, smiling sinisterly. Saris ate Samus, then the game crashed and kicked me back to the desktop. I inserted the disc and it loaded Fusion again. Samus only had 1 energy tank and had the same things as before. The place looked like Jabu Jabu's belly, but much darker and a huge amount of blood on the floor. There it is, guys, the first mention of blood. Fluid circulated through the vascular system. Samus ran around and found a Metroid. I touched it and the Metroid disintegrated. Then a huge monster appeared. It had a large pair of pincers, was entirely black and had menacing red eyes. It ate Samus, I think this author has a thing for things eating Samus, and showed a frightening image. Samus was dismembered. She had no head, her left leg was entirely eaten off and her torso was cut in half. Gore equals horror, right? I freaked out and reset the computer. It loaded normally, then it ejected the disc and the flash drive. Then I saw that it kicked me back to the title screen on the Wii. Then it distorted and the red text appeared. It said, "You will never win. She is dead. You killed her." Then the Wii shut down and spat out the disc in pieces, with all the sharp ends flying at me. I ducked to dodge the pieces. What an exciting action sequence! Doc Ock's wife should have taken inspiration from this author. I unplugged my Wii, took the disc parts, the game box, the CD and the flash drive and tossed them into the trash. I prayed I'd never see the game, the CD or the flash drive ever again. I asked my friend about their copies and they said theirs were fine. I'll never know why that copy was like that. The end. How was the creepypasta? Tell me in the comments. Yes, alright, innit? Number 8. NES Metroid creepypasta Brinstar. Alright everyone, this story has a few images that go along with it, so prepare your eyes for NES Godzilla levels of authenticity. At least the author tried, so props for that. The rest of the story though, we'll get to that when we get to that. One of my favorite childhood games, oh god, is this gonna be another obligatory childhood trauma video? Was Metroid for the NES. I got the game for my 7th birthday, I played it for hours, but over the years, new systems came out, and new Metroid games were released. Those were a lot of commas. I still play the NES, but I didn't play the original Metroid. One day when playing Metroid Zero Mission 42 GBA, I noticed that there was an option to play the original Metroid. I was done with all of my schoolwork, so I decided to take out my NES and pop the game in. Why would you not use your GBA? I have many NES games. I took a while to find a copy of Metroid, and I did. When I put the game in, the screen cut to black, but then I heard the theme of Metroid proudly coming out of the speakers, and in no time flat, I had already obtained the long beam and morph all. But when I went through the tunnel that leads to the next sector of Brinstar, I noticed something. The other side of the tunnel was lined with a blood-red block sprite. I know I haven't played Metroid for a while, but I'm positive this wasn't in the game. I proceeded through the next room with caution. When I was pretty surprised, when I entered the room I felt a sense of dread. The Brinstar music that presently played was now slowed down, while being followed by a low-pitched heartbeat. The room was very large, and like the blocks in the tunnel, the entire room was red. I also noticed in the game that my energy bar and missile tank icons were missing. I now know that abnormality of the game has reached new levels. What? If I was gonna beat the game, I would have to be very persistent with my actions. Let's skip some more. There was a very long hallway. I at least spent 5 minutes walking through blah 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 blah. This red beetle was large, then Samus. It only took a few seconds of examining Samus before it emitted a blood-curdling scream and rushed her. I was forced to run away from that horrible thing. I ran until I finally made it to the blue hatch again and went through. I figured I wouldn't have to fight that horrible thing again, but boy was I wrong. I jumped back when I heard the loud sound of the hatch breaking into bits while the red beetle charged through. I guess I was gonna have to fight the ugly bastard after all. If there's one thing good about this fight, it is that the beetle didn't have many attacks and large snapping tusks seemed to slow it down a little. You know what, it's pointless to announce every time I skip ahead in the story, so from now on, if you want the full story, make sure you check it out in the description. I feel as the abnormality of the game was trying to tell me something, as if saying, turn the game off, but that just made me even more curious. What was the rest of the game like? And what else would be in store for me if I continued? In the last stretch of the battle, the boss was now much faster. It would constantly rush back and forth, gnashing its jaws, but soon this evil 8-bit abomination was blown into pieces. The creature died when its abdomen finally exploded, and it sank into the ground. When it died, it dropped a missile expansion. I wanted to see what else was on the other side of the blue hatch. I reluctantly went through. Of course, I spent another 7 minutes traveling through the red hallway until I found the other side. There was a sideways Chorizo statue. The hatch was grey, and the Chorizo was holding a purple orb, of course. The hatch wouldn't open. I turned back, and as I walked back to the room where I fought the beetle, I heard a loud rumbling sound and the screen shook. I cautiously proceeded through the destroyed hatch to see that there was an opening in the ground leading to Kraid's lair. I had no choice but to jump down the hole and go down the elevator to Kraid's lair. End of part 1. Will be continued in NES Metroid Creepypasta, Kraid's lair. At last, after all this joking about these creepypastas setting up for sequels, we finally have one that actually does so. I don't know whether to be happy or sad. Number 7. Blood Troit. We haven't even gotten past the title yet. A week ago my friend Cody got a new game called Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. I was eager to play it, so I called him up on his phone. Strangest thing was, he didn't answer it. Weird considering he always picks it up. Maybe he was busy? So I went straight to his home and rang the doorbell. Jesus Christ, how desperate are you to hang out with this guy? His mom answered and I asked, is Cody home? And his mom answered with, Cody is up in his room. Ever since he bought that game, he has been spending most of his time up there. After I got the location of my friend, I made my way up to his room and opened the door labeled Cody's room. After I opened his door and glanced around, my eyes caught my friend in the corner of his room rocking back and forth like something just frightened him. I went over and asked, Cody, are you okay? When he looked up, his face had a terrifying expression. I continued and asked him, Cody, where's the new Metroid game you bought? I love how that's the first thing you ask your friend. Your friend is obviously going through something awful and the only thing you can think of are the video games. He answered, "Do not play that game!" I was confused and asked him, "Cody, can I borrow Metroid?" He responded, "Please take that game, I never want to see it again." I'm getting mixed signals from Cody here. First he tells the author not to play the game, and then he urges him to take it? What's going on here? Not heeding his warning, I took it and went straight home. After I got home, I popped it in and clicked on the icon to start it up. It was strange. Instead of the title saying Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, it read Blood Troit. Ooh. Still confused, I continued on. I looked for any save files and there weren't any. So I decided to continue a new game. After the epilogue, I played level 1, but it was strange. Instead of spawning in level 1, I spawned in a prison. I thought it was some kind of glitch. Oh, of course it was. But didn't think it much and continued. I walked down the corridor and looked into a cell. I saw a prisoner with his head decapitated and his guts all over the walls. At that sight, I almost vomited, but still continued on. Ooh, pixelated gore, that's so gross. After reaching the end of the corridor, I saw the warden's office was opened. I looked behind the counter and found a person rocking back and forth like my friend Cody. When I approached him, a text box appeared and it read, "Leave now before it's too late." Then the figure disappeared, and at that point I should have turned the game off, but still continued on with it. I went into the basement of the prison and found monsters on hooks with their heads blasted open, guts everywheres. I still decided to continue out of curiosity. When I found a way out of the prison, I went to look where I was. All I can see was a red ocean surrounding the entire place. I thought to myself, could this ocean be full of blood? Not a second later, a health bar appeared on the top of the screen. I turned around and a shadow figure. Oh my gosh, Shadow the Hedgehog? I can't handle the edge! When it dashed and hit me, my screen went black. When my screen went on, I found the character Metroid on the ground with one of her legs in a gash on her chest and her other leg in her back. Both her arms were in her head and blood was just everywheres. Then I proceeded to turn off the game. Then I threw it in the trash as soon as I can. When I woke up the next morning and went to Cody's house, I asked him, "Hey Cody, that new Metroid game you got was messed up." He replied saying, "New Metroid game? What are you talking about? I never got a new Metroid game." This sparked me in confusion. I am still wondering, where did that game come from? So am I, buddy. Wait, you're the author of the story! You should have all the answers! Number 6. Metroid Prime 3 Custom, in parentheses, Creepypasta. Wow. This was written by Retro, 13 years old. I hope you enjoy. I made this right after I watched one of your Metroid Creepypastas and I wanted to write my own. They're writing to Mudahar from Some Ordinary Gamers here in case you couldn't tell. This is the first pasta I have ever made, so please do not get all criticizing about it, please. When Metroid Prime 3 first came out for the Wii, a hardcore Metroid fan went to buy the game over at GameStop. Why is it always GameStop? When he got there, he asked if they had any more copies of Metroid Prime 3. They did. He had a choice to buy a copy of the game brand new for $40 or get another brand new for $10. He, surprised, got the one for $10. Why are you surprised? When he got home, he went to play the game immediately. He started up the game and on the main title screen, instead of saying Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, it said Metroid Prime 3 Custom. Not caring, as he thought it was part of the game, never playing it before, he started the first file and instead of spawning near the GFS Olympus, he spawned near the GFS Olympus but it was in pieces, much like the Valhalla. He sent his ship into the wreckage and landed in the regular landing bay. Coming out of his ship, the player noted that he only had the power suit and power beam. When he went through the big cargo bay doors, much like at the Valhalla, is everything gonna be like the Valhalla? There was a large cliff in front of the player. The player then went across a bridge to get to the other side. When he was halfway on the small bridge, a GF fighter came on a metal belt connected to the ceiling and was knocked off the bridge. When the player hit the button off the cliff instead of dying by all the fall. What? The player retrieved a Metroid suit. The computer told the player that the suit did nothing. So the player continued traveling at the bottom of the cliff. The game got a little buggy. There would be static on the screen. Sometimes the player thought there was something behind them both in real life and in the game. There's so much static in these stories, gosh, are we getting some Slendy influences on here? The game also glitched out sometimes by having a light or a dark portal here and there for only a split second. Then one of the dark portals spawned right in front of the player, the cutscene for traveling to the dark world activated. The player went to a dark world version of his house. Interested of how this could happen, he continued playing. He went to his room where he was playing the game. He saw himself, every action he made was in the game. He tried shooting himself in the game, and in real life he was shot, but not by an energy beam, but water. He looked around, in real life, and found the end of a camera and a water gun inside the case. The game case was watching him. He took the game and stomped— oh look at that voice crack, oh my god! He took the game and stomped on it, then put it in the oven. Then he went to shoot it with his shotgun at the range. That is the end of that, the player thought. He then asked his friends if this happened to them. They all had never heard of it. He tried researching it. Nothing. He finally sent a message to Nintendo. Nintendo said they had never heard of it and they would ask Retro Studios. It was many weeks before Nintendo finally said that Retro Studios had never heard of it. To this day, that player still wonders what happened. And if... ... Well, that is for another story. Oh, screw you! Finish the damn story in the story! Wow, okay. I think it's time for us to take a little break from these horrifying tales. I hope you'll be able to sleep tonight. Join me next time for the conclusion and the final 5 stories. They're only gonna get worse and worse. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay awesome. Goodbye.